Welcome back to Young and Chatty with Nev and Kaylah. Today's topic of the day is going to be parents.
And it goes a little something like
Okay, parents. So, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to this topic, but I guess for right now we can just talk about what we see in different parents, like how people parent their kids. Because I know when I be walking around seeing how people be parenting their children, I be like, nah, whoop that ass.
Oh no, because a lot of parents are doing that gentle parenting now.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's starting to look like a bad thing because these kids are out of control.
I feel like it's their environment. Whatever environment they're in, that's how they're gonna act on. Like, they're gonna act on what they see.
But yeah, like imagine your kid is doing something way out of pocket, like, I don't know, writing on the walls with a marker, and they know they're not supposed to be doing it, and then your mom's just like, sweetie, we don't do that. They're just like, oh, my mom don't care, I'm gonna still do it.
I mean, okay, for me, like, if I were a parent, if I were to see my child do that, I would be like, okay, look, let's have a conversation. You're not supposed to do that. I wouldn't baby you, but I'm gonna make it, clear, like, hey, we're not gonna do that, right? So I'm gonna do what I would want to do it in a calm tone, and then the next time, if they do that again, then I'm gonna have to raise my voice a little bit because I told you the first time, I want to do it the second time.
But that's what these kids don't get.
I understand what you're saying.
You understand? It's like sometimes you have to yell at them.
Yeah.
Well, like,
Yeah.
not yell, but like at least be firm. Like,
Yeah. Like, be very blunt when it comes to,
because you have to let your kids know, like, you're not my friend, you are my child, and I am your parent. Please listen.
I know for a fact that it'll be harder once if the kids, well, when the kid is like very, very young, they're not gonna really understand. It might take time for them to understand.
I understand that, like the toddler stages, that's understandable, but then that's when it's most important to teach them right from wrong.
True. This is true. There was one time I was at Walmart and there was a child. He had to look like he was probably 10, maybe 9, but he was literally climbing, like, you know how like at Walmart they have like the shelves? He was climbing on the shelves and like the mama wasn't doing anything, and I'm like, so you gonna get your kid or what? You just gonna let him climb? What if Jimmy gets stuck? What you gonna do now?
Did you name the kid Jimmy?
I sure did. I don't know the kid's name.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, people are gonna parent their child different ways. Like,
Oh yeah, a lot of people have different parenting styles, but just sometimes,
it's like maybe you should switch it up a little bit,
yeah.
because you have people now who are like, I mean, like, no shame to parents who parent their children, but there are some parents out there who turn their kids into a monster. Like, people at the age of 20, 21, it's like, when did your mama teach you that? Like, did you learn this growing up? Because that's not okay. But then, a person will only say that because, okay, like, for example, let's say I don't know, you were doing something weird, okay? I can't really think of an example, but you were doing something really weird. But it's okay. Like, in your head, it's okay because you grew up knowing that it's okay. And then if I see you doing something or saying something that's kind of weird, I would be like, you're not supposed to do that, or you're not supposed to say that. Of course I'm going to say that because that's what my parents taught me. So parents teach in a different way. So it's kind of, there's no perfect way of teaching the child of what to do, because then you also have to think about it. Parents only teach their child what they know.
Okay, see, it's like, I understand parents teach their kids what they, like, grew up listening or doing, but, like, at some point, you have to, like, really think, like, okay, just because I learned this doesn't mean my kid needs to learn this.
True.
You feel me?
That is true, because, okay, let's get to personal experiences. Now, I have no bash, no hate for my mom, because I mostly got raised by my mom. I mean, my dad, I knew my dad, I was around my dad, but I never actually lived with him. So it was always my mom who would be the one raising me. There are certain things that my mom would say or my mom would do like for parenting that me personally, I wouldn't say or do when and if I have children, whenever it comes that time. Again, like I said, I love my mom dearly, but there are just some things that growing up I noticed. I'm like, yeah, I would never do or say anything like that to my child. Most of the things that I have been through, I wouldn't want my child to go through whenever I do have children. Because, like, don't get me wrong, the struggle is real. And it's okay to struggle. But, like, not that bad, you know? I wouldn't want my child to struggle that bad. Like, right now, I'm pretty great with where I'm at right now. Like, I'm chilling. There are things that I have learned from my environment. Not mostly from my parents, but from my environment. There are things that I've seen, there are things that I've heard, or that I have heard that I wouldn't do or that I would want to do. Okay, now I'm pretty sure that, like, growing up, most children out there, they will, you know, get disciplined. Every parent has their way of disciplining their child. Me personally, I don't think I would ever throw hands with my child. Like,
Yeah,
a
that's
simple
insane.
pat on the hand to, like, get you to understand, like, hey, I'm being serious. Yeah, but, like, beating your child, like, I cannot do that. I really
That I
can't
don't
do that.
understand.
I don't believe in beating you. Like, what are you, like, you're only making it worse for your child, because the more you're beating your child, the more you're basically pushing your child away from you. Your child's not going to want to come to you, like, with certain things. They're not going to feel comfortable coming to you or asking you something. Like, that's how I see it.
Yeah. With me, I grew up with my dad and my dad's side of the family. So my dad, no hate to my dad, love him. He never put his hands on me or my sister. He's never laid a hand on us. The only thing that really, I would say, really affected me was the voice, him verbally talking to us, and the things that, well, mainly me, the things he would say to me, it was like, okay, I don't want to be near you, I don't want to talk to you, leave me alone. Because growing up, my dad, like, I would just say something, I'm like, I don't want to do this, or I don't like how this person said this to me, and he was like, well, get over it, you're a child, stay in a child's place. I'm just like, I'm trying to tell you as my father how I'm feeling, and you basically invalidated that, told me to shut up.
That's another thing. When I was younger, when I wanted to go to my mom, I couldn't, and I knew I couldn't, because it was like, she probably, I'm not saying that my mom didn't care, like, 'cause I know that she had her own things going on, but, like, I'm your child. I'm trying to come to you, ask you for advice, guidance, trying to feel better, and I couldn't do that. So most of the time, I know that most of my life I was by myself. Like, I stayed in my room, I stayed independent, and I think that's what basically grew my independence, because, like, I couldn't go to no one to really talk to, because it's like, you're overreacting, stop thinking like that, don't say that, and I'm like, okay, but, like, that's how I feel.
Yeah, it was always stay in a child's place with me, and I was just like, okay, so my feelings don't matter because I'm a kid and you're the adult.
And that's when they hated when I turned 18. I told them, I said, look, when the day turns 18, you gonna hear from me, because my whole life I have felt like I couldn't talk, I couldn't speak, and then when I did speak, it was like, oh, you're being disrespectful, you shouldn't say it in that tone.
Yeah, I've been talking normally, they'd be like, you have an attitude? Where do you hear the attitude?
Where's the attitude?
I didn't even have an attitude until you said something.
This is true. You know, I actually had to communicate that to my mom before. There was one time, she, actually plenty of times, she would come up to me and be like, hey, can I use this? And, you know, sometimes I was like, yes, but when I said no, it's, you're mean. That's not, like, she'll call me mean. She'll say, like, that's disrespectful. She'll be like, I done everything for you, and I can't use this one thing. Like, I'm telling you, you can't use it for a reason.
Yeah.
Like, it's for a reason. And, like, there's some things that I just wouldn't want no one to use, you know? Like, don't get me wrong. There are some things that I let her use, like my perfume. I'll be like, yeah, go ahead, I don't care. But, like, if it's like that much, no, I'm saving it for a reason. But apparently I'm mean for not wanting to share my things that I bought.
My sister says that I'm very to myself and like I'm very quiet, but then she also says that I'm mean. And I was like, girl, you have to understand, I am the firstborn child. Our parents were young when they had me. I basically grew up with them. They didn't really raise me. I grew up with them while they raised you because you're their second child. Mm-hmm. They know what to do with you. They didn't know what to do with me. Mm-hmm. So I also grew up raising you. And then our mom kept having kids. So I kept raising kids that weren't mine.
I mean, like, okay, like for me, like I wouldn't say I really like raised my brother, but I kind of did. There was a moment where, okay, so there was a time where when me, my mom, my little brother, and my brother's dad, when we all lived in an apartment together. Because at first we were all living in my grandparents' house for a while. Then when they decided to, you know, get their own place, I felt like I was kind of like left out because like my mom, his dad, and like my brother, they all like share the same DNA. I'm the only one that really like, it's just me, my mom. Like, yeah, I shared a little bit of DNA with my brother, but like they were like the trio, you know. And then once, you know, the situation happened with my mom and his dad, we had to move back in with my grandparents. And I understood, like, at a young age, I didn't really understand, but like when I grew up more, I understood. My mom, she was going through something, like she was hurt, and like that's understandable. But there are times where I would have to make sure that the kid eats. I would have to make sure that, you know, he takes a shower, that he's cool and everything. Because most of the time, my mom would be either asleep or in the car, like in her car, just, you know, to herself. And like now I understand because like she was hurt, she wouldn't have time to herself to like process everything. But I had to basically raise the child because my mom was too hurt. Which, like I said, understandable. But that's another thing. If I have a kid and if I'm like desperately like hurt, I don't think that I wouldn't call it neglect, but I wouldn't like be like, okay, I want to be to myself, leave me alone. I can't be like, you're my kid. You know?
When I was living with my mom when I was younger, I feel like for me, at a young age, I understood everything perfectly because I was always observing and watching everyone around me. It's just how I am. And I feel like that was probably one of the problems, just I was so observant growing up that I knew everything, even when people would tell me, oh, this is not what's going on. And I'm like, well, I watched you do it. I heard you say these things and everything. So like with my mom, I'm just going to say she chose men over her kids. She's always been like that. She always chose the person she's with over her kids. So me being the oldest, of course, I always heard take care of your siblings, watch your siblings, make sure they got this and everything like that. That's what I did. And so when like she would disappear, I would be the one to like make sure they have food, make sure they're eating, changed or whatever. There's a time where eventually I just got sick of it and I became really quiet and just I think I stayed to myself a lot of the time.
I think that's another thing with me. I feel like for most of my life I was very quiet, but then like now that I'm older, I'd be like, no, you're not gonna talk to me that way. Like I get it, you're my parent, you're my grandparent, whatever. But if I feel disrespected or like, you know, spoken to the wrong way, I am going to call you out on it because I'm of age to do so. And if you want to get mad, you get mad. That's fine.
See, I'm learning that now because, again, growing up, I was always told how I feel. It doesn't matter because I'm a child. Now that I'm grown, I'm 21 years old. Now I'm just to the point where, like, all right, I don't care who you are. You're not going to speak to me like that.
No, for real.
Because I kept it all inside all these years. So now that I'm finally saying something, you cannot be mad or get upset about it. Because I'm grown. I'm not a child no more. I love you, you're my family, but that doesn't mean I have to take anything from you.
Exactly. Like, okay, like you don't want me to speak to you a certain way, don't speak to me that same way.
Yes. Like I grew up like what would they say, respect your elders and everything like that. Now that I'm older, it's like, no, respect is earned, it's not given. Sorry, I don't care that you're 80 years old. Watch your mouth.
That's just the truth. Like, you're not gonna say like, okay, you're 67, cool, and you're gonna call me like, excuse my language, you're gonna call me a little hoe? Like, yeah, you don't know what I'd be doing just because. Okay, that's another thing. So there was a time where when I started, you know, dating, I didn't really go to people's houses like when I was younger. But now that I'm older, now that I have a boyfriend, I have a car, I have my own money, I started going to his house. I started spending the night. And my mom came to me and she told me, she was like, they don't like how you are spending the night at your boyfriend's house. And I'm like, well, that's just too bad. Like, I'm not stupid. I know what I'm doing. I'm not gonna mess up my life. Just because you all had kids at a very young age doesn't mean I'm gonna follow in the same footsteps. I know how to be safe. I know how to, take care of myself. I've been doing it for a very long time. But my mom told me that my grandpa called me a name, but I don't remember what the name was. But it was a really bad name. And I'm like, why would you call me that just because I spend the night with my boyfriend? And then they would keep going on and on, like, don't you think she shouldn't be doing this? Don't you think she shouldn't be going down there? And then my mom was like, Nevaeh is old enough to do whatever she wants to do. She has her own car. She has her own money. My mom can't tell me, you can't go to his house. You can't spend the night. You can't take away my keys. Who's paying for that car? Me. Me. You can't take something that I'm paying for, So it's like, over time, they had to get used to it. They just had to understand, like, I'm getting older. That's what they hate. That's what they hate, that we're getting older. And then when I introduced the topic of me leaving, like moving out of the house, do you think you're going to be able to handle that? Do you think that's a good decision? First of all, yes, because you kind of put it out there that I should, with all this complaining that Nevaeh's not doing this, Nevaeh's not doing that. That's crazy, because Nevaeh does a lot. Just because you guys don't see it doesn't mean it's not being done. It's either they are asleep or they are gone. And when they are here, me and my mom, we either gone or we're in our rooms. We mind our business, because no one got time to be dealing with all that, So it's like, yes, I do think, I know that I can do it. I make good money. I'm not struggling. I have money saved. I'm good. So it's like, for you to even doubt that, that's insane.
Yeah, that's what my grandma do. That's what she does. I think because she feels like she's been here longer, she's had more life experiences, it's just like, you do what I say. Or like, you're not capable of this because this is what happened to me. And it's just like, you don't know what's going to happen.
And another thing is, we're in a whole different era.
This is a whole different era, a whole different generation.
Right now, this generation is 100% different from how they grew up.
Yeah.
100%
definitely.
different.
And that's what they hate. I feel like our generation, we kind of like flipped everything. We're like, bro, this is not right. You're not going to get away with this just because you're older. Just because you're older doesn't mean you know everything. You have to understand, back in your days, nothing was like how it is for us now. And I also, like, I tell my dad, like, yeah, you were young, but still, you're not our generation.
Yeah.
Your generation made it so much more harder for my generation to grow up and do things by ourselves as adults. So when I say I'm going to do this by myself, that means let me do it by myself, because you don't know. You don't know. Let me do it by myself. I understand you want to help. You're an adult. I'm new to the adulthood. But still, let me figure it out myself, because you haven't been helping before, so why help now?
Oh, that's so glad you brought that up. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Literally, like, you haven't helped me before, why help now?
That, you know what? And I have something to say about that.
So that's also why I'm like really distant. Like, just, I don't want it anymore, because you had your chance and now I don't want it.
Yes.
And I don't need it no more.
Yes, because, okay, me and my mom, we are more closer. I feel like once the whole situation happened with my mom, we got a little bit more closer. Like, the way that we talk to each other, other parents would be like, why are you guys talking to each other like that? But that's just how me and my mom are, But it's me and my dad, me and my father. We really don't have that close relationship. I don't think we really ever had that close relationship, because he was raising his other kids and I was being raised by my mom. There was a time where I just turned 18, maybe I was turning 19, not sure, but I was working, and I I got a phone call from my dentist, and they were like, hey, no one has been paying the bill. And I'm like, what are you talking about? My parents made a decision to pay that bill, and then once I turned 18, I started, actually no, once I got my first job, I was helping paying for that bill. But once I turned 18, when I was working my big girl job, because I was making way more money at that job than the other one, I started pitching in a little bit more. But then my mom and my dad, they didn't like talk about it, but they told me like, you shouldn't be paying for that. Like, this bill has been here since you were in 8th grade. Like, we have to take care of that. So I'm like, well, yeah, but like, I'm working, I might as well help, you know, to bring it down. And I asked, I'm like, hey, like, how much is it? And they told me how much it was. And I'm like, when was the last payment? And they told me like last year. And I'm like, so no one has been paying this for a whole year? So I get my mom on the phone. I'm like, okay, look, like, they said this, they said that, we need to do this, we need to do that. And my mom was on board. She was like, yeah, we have to pay for it. Cool. Then I told my dad, I'm like, hey, like, we have to do this, we have to do that. And my dad was like, I don't like that idea. And I'm like, it's not an idea, it's what we're required to do. Like, you said that you were gonna help pay for it, my mom's paying for it, and I'm paying for it. This is a 3-party thing, we're all paying for this. What's the issue? And then it turned into a whole argument that really did not even need to happen. And he made it clear that he wasn't gonna help me ever again. So I'm like, great. So I blocked my dad, and then I had him blocked for a very, very long time. And then one day I decided to block him to talk to him about the whole situation. And he just went on and on and on. I'm like, that's not what happened. And there were times where he would be like, do you need this? Do you need that? I'm like, no, I got it. You made it clear that you didn't want to help me. So I've been figuring it out by myself. So that's what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. So don't try and ease your way back in when you already
to make yourself feel better. I feel like that's what it is. It's just like, okay, for my dad's side of the family, it's always been every man for themselves. I know that now. Understood it perfectly. I don't need their help. I don't want it no more. Again, they had their chance, they missed it. I'm grown. I'll figure it out. With my mom, I don't really know what to say about hers, because when I was younger, I wanted that mother-daughter relationship that I grew up seeing everybody else have, but unfortunately my mom wasn't there. And so now that I'm grown, she's trying to come back, and it's like, I don't want you here. I do not want you here. I don't need you here. Your other kids, sure, yeah, because I know for sure my younger siblings, they want her. They've always been, you know, really attached to my mom. Me, on the other hand, I just feel like there's no reason for you to be here. Yeah, like, I do have the mother-daughter relationship, but I don't have that father-daughter relationship. And there are times where I be like, I want that relationship. I see dads and their daughters, like, you know, and I'm like, why didn't I get the chance to have that? And then now that he's like slowly but surely trying to, I'm like, no. Because I feel like now it's the guilt. I think that's what it is. It's the guilt. And it's like, okay, why do you have this guilt now that I'm an adult? Why didn't you have it when you were supposed to be there when I was a child? Yeah. And that's another crazy thing, because like, I had to basically tell my dad off. I was like, look, we both had a conversation. We both made an agreement to, like, you know, check in on each other, you know, call each other, at least send a text. And there was a time where my dad didn't even talk to me for 6 months. And I'm like, you haven't spoken to me for half of a year. So why is it that I have to always contact you first, but you can't? And then it's, oh, I'm too busy with this, I'm too busy with that. That's just an excuse. You can talk to your other kids, but you can't talk to me. Just because I'm far away doesn't mean anything. You can call me, you can text me, and if you can't call me, text me. You have my number. How are you? Are you good? Because like, you're the child, he's the parent. What's not clicking? Because the phone doesn't work both ways in that. It doesn't work both ways in that situation. Because at first I even told him, I said it's 50-50. Like, if I can do it, you could for sure do it. So once he stopped doing it, I was like, okay, I'm leaving it as that. Last time I talked to my dad was like a couple of weeks ago, and he hasn't sent out one message. Then before that, it was 3 months. And then when I did talk to him, I basically gave him like an update on my life, and he was like, wow, I didn't know any of these things. I'm like, oh, you would if you would send a text. Because it's that simple.
It's really that simple.
It's that simple.
But you can for sure text and call your other kids. Just because your grown-ass kids, just because your grown kids live with you, you have what, a 28, 20, I don't even know how old she is, 27, 28, 29, whatever, living with you. You have your grown kids living with you. Just because they're living with you doesn't mean anything. You could still call me. I exist. You still made me. I'm here. Just because I live an hour away don't mean none.
Yeah, that's just insane. Like I said, like with my mom, I feel like it's guilt. I love her because she is my mom, but it's just like I don't have any kind of feelings towards you. Like, you're just there.
Yeah.
At this point, I see you as more of the mom to my younger siblings because they're still young and they still need you and they still want you in their lives. Me, I don't. You missed it. I don't want you here no more. But for my dad, again, love him dearly because he's always done his best, but he's emotionally unavailable. Like, I feel like I'm like my dad in a lot of ways because he's always been like to himself.
But
a
the
lot.
thing is, you grew up with your dad.
But it's just, again, growing up with him and how he raised me is always just verbally like abusive in some kind of way. Now it's kind of getting worse on his end because I feel myself being more distant from him because now I could barely stand to be near my dad. But I think it's just because of everything that's going on. Like, I understand that, but it shouldn't have to be all my responsibility for what you're going through.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, I hate to put like my parents on blast like that, but like, I love my mom. I love her so much. She's the reason why I'm here, you know. There are times where, you know, she struggles and she'll come to me and be like, hey, like this and that, and I'd be like, I cannot help you because I have my own things going on, and then it's a problem. And then when I have an issue, like not with like financially, like mentally, it's like I'm trying to come to you. Like, I'm an adult now. I'm trying to come to you and talk to you about like how I'm feeling, but it's hard because I feel like I'm either gonna get judged or yelled at.
Yeah.
And I don't want that. I just need help. Like, don't get me wrong, there are here and there she will listen. She will listen. It's just some different topics. Like, there was a time where I did something bad happened, and I did not tell her. And that situation, I should have told her. I should have, because she's my mom. You should go to your mom for something like that. And when she found out, she said that she was hurt that I didn't tell her. And I'm like, well, Mom, the reason why I didn't is because I felt like I couldn't. I feel like I couldn't tell you. I can't explain why, but I feel like I couldn't tell you. So that's just, like, again, love my mom, love my dad. Like, they are the reason why I'm here. It's just some things that they have done and said I personally would not do when I end up having a child.
Because I do want a kid, when I do become a parent, it's going to be so much more different. Because for one, I know for a fact that I will make it so where my kid can come to me about anything.
I want my child to feel commentable to come to me. I don't care how uncomfortable the conversation is. Come and talk to me. Like, I'm your
I don't
parent.
ever want my kid to have to struggle financially, mentally, emotionally. It's just not right. Because
like,
of how I grew up, now I'm so closed off from everything. I'd rather deal with everything myself. And even me just asking for help, I have so much trouble doing because it's way too hard. My family doesn't do it. They never created a safe space for me to do it. So
yeah, so like once I, you know, started working, I was like, okay, I'm making my own money, I'm paying my bills, and then I was like, okay, let me stop sharing bills with, you know, my mom. So once I got off her plans, I got my own plans, I'm on my own, because it's like, I struggled a lot, like financially, mentally, physically, emotionally, all the leaves.
all the leaves.
And like, don't get me wrong, I'm still struggling now, but I'm okay. Like, I'm happy. Like, I have money. I have money to provide for myself. I can provide for myself now. It may not be much, but I have it. I don't have to depend on them anymore. And I stopped depending on them for a very, very long time. And it was the best decision that I had because I felt like I was struggling more being dependent.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was like they were limited on things. They were limited on a lot. So it's like, okay, let me do it myself. Because what's the point of struggling, you know?
I feel like I've helped my parents more than they've helped me.
And like, even saying that, if they were to even hear that, they would be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's always, but I gave a roof over your head. Like, okay, congratulations, you did the basic stuff you're supposed to do as a parent. But what I'm talking about is all the other aspects.
Yeah.
I've helped you more than you've ever helped me, and I'm 21 years old.
Like, Nevaeh, can you give me $20? Here you go. Nevaeh, can you do this for me? Here you go. I'm basically
Like, I do
a parent
everything.
to my own parent.
I do everything. And it's like, what do I get in return?
Stress.
what do I get in return? Like, what the hell?
Like, don't get me wrong, like, she's my mom. I'm gonna help her, but there's a limit. There's a limit. Because, like, again, I'm going through my own things. Like, right now, I'm in school. There are things I have to pay for in school. I have a car. I have to pay for my car bill and gas. I'm looking for an apartment. I have to save up money. And it's like, I just have to do it. So if I say, like, hey, I can't give it to you, then it's just that. You can't get mad. It's the money that I worked for.
Yeah. With I don't really know about my mom's side. I've kind of stopped talking to them in a way. Not because I don't like them, just because I just became really distant.
Mm-hmm.
But with my dad's side of the family, if they ever listen to this, I'm sorry, but they prioritize smoking and everything else above anything else. Like, that's like their number one priority.
Again, this is not to like bash your family.
It's not bashing, it's just telling the truth.
It's just like,
at some point you're gonna have to face it.
yeah.
At some point. Like,
Not-
if your
not
kids are
saying-
saying this about you, then maybe that should really click in your head, like, wow, I should have done this instead of this.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. It's just, this will be like their moment of realization because, like
Not
I
to
said,
bash, like, again, I love my dad. I do, but
there's just some things I'm not doing when I have a kid.
yeah, pretty much everything that I'm not
Yeah.
doing. That how I
Yeah.
was raised, it's not happening. Yeah, if you have a kid, please. Oh man,
Well, okay, before she even say anything, like, we're not telling you how to raise your kid. Like, do what
no,
you
that's your
please.
kid. But
Coming from experience, even though that we are very young, go ahead.
even though we are young and based off our experiences, and if you do have a kid, please just build a healthy foundation for them so they could come to you. And if you're doing something that's maybe like, maybe this will hurt my kid in the long run, stop doing it.
Simple as that.
It's simple as that. Stop doing it. Change it. Other than that, do your thing.
Yeah. But alright guys, thank you for listening to this episode. Remember, we are going to be posting an episode every Friday. Follow our social media. We have TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. Links will be in the description. And don't forget,
Stay young.
stay chatty.